Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I thought I'd share my process on how I record and edit my videos, and although I'm not the most successful, I personally feel like my style is still really good and worth sharing, and at least showing to others how they can improve their own videos. This video is going to be broken up into basically 3 different sections, and there will be timestamps down below for each of those. So if you've already got one covered and just want to skip to the next, you can just go ahead and do that. There's just one more thing, and I'll make it brief. YouTube showed me a strange statistic the other day that says that only 80% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. That's all I'm gonna say. You can do with that information what you will. Anyway, on to the first segment of the video. So I use 3 main software to record my videos, and they're all free and they're all really great and just work so well, and honestly work sometimes even better than some paid programs. So I cannot recommend these 3 programs enough. The first one is OBS. I'm using OBS Classic Edition just because it's what I'm used to and I think it runs better for recording, but the easiest version to find is OBS Studio. And I do use that sometimes. I find it is sometimes better for streaming, but if you can find OBS Classic, I would highly recommend that. The next thing I would recommend using is Audacity, which isn't required since you can record your voice directly into OBS. But if you record your voice separately with Audacity or some other voice recording program, you can have separate audio tracks for the game sounds and your vocal recording. And that just ends up being really useful in case there's like a misbalance in volume or something like that that you need to fix later in editing. And the last thing is Voicemeeter Banana, which is literally a lifesaver. If you don't want to pay for an expensive USB or XLR mic and you just want to use like the $20 one you can find on Amazon, Voicemeeter can basically make that mic sound great. Literally all I do is boost the bass a little bit and turn down the gain, and my mic sounds way better. But you can just mess with it for a bit. You can turn this on and then suddenly you can hear yourself. But yeah, just figure that out, and it is just, I cannot recommend it enough. Again, the only other software I use for the videos is Premiere Pro, which isn't free. Obviously not everybody wants to pay for $400 of editing software, so I'm not recommending that you go and find a pirated version online, but it's totally up to you. Okay, so now into the process of actually recording your videos. The only thing you want to do for your actual screen recording, really, is make sure that your screen recording settings are suited in terms of encoding to your actual PC and that they'll actually fit. And it won't make your PC lag whenever you're recording, because that can be really annoying and it can just make it a really much slower process. I would instead focus on making your audio recording settings a little bit higher and your Voicemeeter settings, because statistically people are more likely to stay on a video if the audio quality is better than if, you know, the video quality is good. So you can have a 720p 30 fps video but have really great audio quality, and people will stay more than if you have 1080p with 60 fps but your mic sounds like crap. So when it comes to actually recording in-game, most of your actual in-game settings you can just leave to whatever is most comfortable for you. However, because nowadays a lot of people are watching on their phones and things like that, I would recommend turning your GUI scale up to large in Minecraft, simply because it makes details easier to see in the inventory and stuff like that. And if it's like normal size, it can get a little too small for a recording that's minimized on a phone. When it comes to what kind of content in Minecraft you're actually recording, I would absolutely recommend just doing whatever brings you the most joy. It's so much easier to be an entertaining commentator if you're actually enjoying what you're doing. So if something like Skyblock bores you, don't do it just because it gets lots of views on other people's channels, because it likely won't have the same effect for you, just because people can tell when you're not enjoying what you're doing. So I play a lot of Bed Wars, a lot of PvP based games, and very occasionally I'll make a Skyblock video, but a lot of that game is very grindy and difficult to commentate over unless you find an actual piece of content. Just as well, recording in single player is also really good. There's tons of great ideas nowadays for things like challenges or series to do in like a vanilla world that's not a dedicated multiplayer server. So there are tons of ways you can do that, and if that's what you enjoy, then I will never not recommend that that's what you go for. The only other thing I might recommend is definitely not required. That's literally just downloading a PvP client, just because it has a lot of ways to improve sort of the visual quality of your video, such as motion blur. This just doesn't look quite as good as this right here. It just instantly becomes a lot smoother looking and way more pleasing to the eye, at least in my opinion. Keystrokes is another cool mod to have, just because that way viewers can kind of see what you're doing with your hands whenever you're playing. Recording is literally the easiest part, because you don't have to put a lot of effort into commentating. You just gotta be yourself and have fun and just say the things you normally think about while you're playing the games. As long as you find the recordings entertaining, then it's very likely that other people will too. So don't worry too much about being some grand comedian whenever you're sitting down to record a video. Okay, so the last and possibly most important thing in creating entertaining videos in the modern YouTube scene is the process of editing. I might make a separate video for a more advanced editing tutorial, just because there's only so much I can really say in just one video about editing videos. But for now, I'll just stick to the basics and the things that are gonna bring you the most success. The only 100% necessary thing, in my opinion, is knowing how to do a jump cut. So I've queued up a video that's upcoming on my channel, and you'll see the rest of it soon. This is kind of like a sneak preview, but basically there's a bit here where I don't say anything for a little while, and so obviously I want to cut that out because people aren't going to watch just silence as you play the game if they're expecting commentary. So all you have to do to create a jump cut is select your video and audio. For me, I have my game audio and then my voice audio, so I'm selecting all three of these: video, game audio, and then voice audio. And then once you have them all selected, you just have to press Ctrl K and it creates one cut in the clip. So now basically you just gotta let it play until you want to pick the video back up again. So say I want to pick it back up right here. I'm just going to do the same thing and press Ctrl K, and then I'm just going to select the clip in between and delete that, and then slide this right on over so it meets the end of the first clip. And as you can see, it just creates a perfect cut. Seamless, easy transition. One thing that I see in a lot of modern gaming videos especially is using color corrections, and that's also super easy. You could just go completely all out with it and learn how to use color correction curves and all this, but honestly, making the video look a little bit nicer is as simple as selecting the clip you want to use, going to the effects panel, searching Lumetri color, and then scrolling down until you find the one in video effects under color correction, and then just slide that onto the clip you want to add it to. And these are the curves you could use if you want to get really specific with your color corrections, but literally all you have to do is go into basic correction, turn up the temperature a little bit, and the tint up to like 30. So yeah, like temperature 15 and tint 30, and it already just looks so much nicer. Like that difference, it's subtle, but it just makes it so much more visually pleasing, at least in my eyes. Another thing I should point out is that when you're editing your video, it's important to make sure your personality comes through in the editing as much as it does in your commentary and actual gameplay. You kind of want to build a brand while you're editing your video that people will recognize when they're watching the next one. Or if they like it in one video, they'll come back to the next one and see the same thing. Such as for me, one of my sort of trademarks is a really common one. It's just using sort of lo-fi music in the background of the videos. It just gives it a much more laid-back feeling, in my opinion, and a lot of people sort of dig that these days. But while you're editing, if you discover something that you really like and you want to use more often, then you can save that particular edit into your presets here. Such as one of my presets is this little screen wipe thing. I just think that's really cool looking. And another one is just this text wobble thing. It just gives it a little bit more life, and it makes it a little more pleasing to the eye to have these subtle details on each individual edit you make. I would generally recommend spending about 1/5 of the time recording the video that you do end up editing it. So like if your recording is an hour long, your editing process might take up to 5 hours, which is fine because you want to get into that grind and you want to get into that mindset of being close to your work and being aware of what's happening with it and making sure you're happy with every second of the video, because YouTube is difficult. Viewers don't have that long of an attention span generally, so if you have one lame second in your video, that's enough for some people to just click off. So you want to make sure that you keep people engaged and interested. The last thing is that even if your editing goes really well and your recording looks great and you're watching it here and you love the whole video and you can't wait to upload it and you think it's great, it could still actually turn out like crap simply because of your rendering settings when you're actually exporting the video. So whenever you're done actually editing the video, you always want to make sure you go up here to sequence and hit render in to out and just wait for this. It's going to take so long, but it's so worth it. It just makes everything so much more worth it. Everything's just going to look so much better, I promise. And then when you go to export, you just click export media, and this is the most impactful thing. People usually use like the default settings in your Premiere Pro encoding and exporting settings when you're about to save it. But for gaming videos, there are some very specific parameters that I would recommend using, such as for the encoding format, stick to H.264. I've just found that it works the best and looks the nicest, and it has incredibly small file sizes. Like a 10-minute video can literally be under a gigabyte. It's crazy. And then when you come to video, just keep your width, height, frame rate all the same as it usually is, like in the base of the recording. So if you recorded 720p 30 fps, just make sure you have 720p 30 fps selected. It probably will be by default. You can just click match source if it isn't. But the other things are, you want to make sure field order is on progressive, you're on square pixels 1.0. You want to change your profile to high. In my opinion, it just makes it go a little bit faster. You want to check render at maximum depth just to make sure you're getting the best possible render quality. And then change bitrate settings to VBR 2-pass. It's really just an extra mile in making sure that everything looks as nice as possible. And then you can have target bitrate at 10 and maximum bitrate at 12. Those are just what works for me, and what works for most people. It really just has to be like 10 and between 15, I think, and that should be good. So then you're just going to check use maximum render quality and set your time interpolation to optical flow to make sure your frames blend nicely, and then you're just going to click export and wait. So that's pretty much everything. You now have yourself a well recorded and edited video, and it's basically ready to be uploaded. If this video does fairly well, I might make a post-production tutorial video on things like Photoshop and what to put in your tags and how to optimize things like impressions and engagement and things that really have high impact on your video's success. Until then, thank you for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, please leave a like. I would greatly appreciate it, and due to the YouTube algorithm and how it works, leaving a like will actually cause way more people to get this in their recommended section, so I would really appreciate that. And if you're new to the channel and would like to see more videos like this, let me know. This is my first time recording something like this, so I'm really excited to see what people will think of it. But yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.